All right, so at this time I have my tea bowl, which I have finished coiling, and it is now just about like almost firm leather hard, but a good leather hard. Okay, so I can tell because if I try to squish it, it'll still flex, but you can see that it's kind of difficult for me to, like, I'm pressing on it pretty hard to get it to do that. So I've got it to this height that is where I'm interested in having it. I can run my thumb now all around the edge of the top edge to smooth it out. Think of what would be inviting for your lips to touch. You don't want something that's sharp, and if it's like pointy right now, that'll mean that it's sharp later. So just come around and make sure that it's inviting to the lips. Okay, so just smooth it out quite a bit. You can do this with your thumb. You might choose to use a sponge. There are a lot of different ways that you can do that. So once you're satisfied with how smooth the lip is, you can go ahead and pop it off of your banding wheel. There are a couple different ways to do this. If it just wants to come, then that's great, but most likely you'll have to use a tool of some sort. I like to use a rib tool. A metal rib is great. You could try to get under there with a cutting tool like this, but my favorite is just kind of like basically finding something that is like a spatula really, and you're gonna take that and you're just gonna kind of encourage it under the edge going around. Take care though, this is a sharp tool and it is metal if you have the metal one. It would be possible to hurt yourself. Okay, so I'm just coming around and I've got a fair bit of it, and then I'm just gonna grip my hands on it and try to give it a pull. So mine has popped off. If yours didn't pop off, you can just keep going around and around with this, trying not to take off a ton of clay. So I flipped this upside down now, and I want to find center again. So I'm gonna do the same trick that I did last time with my slip. So I'm gonna get this still, and I'm gonna draw a line, and I'm gonna make a bullseye, drawing another line closer inside, and another one that I think is too big, but which will show me where my concentric circles are. Okay, so I'm gonna give that a look. And here's a good trick for finding out. So you can make yourself into basically like the needle of a record player. So you can take your finger, anchor your arm to the table, and hold it on there, and hold it just a tiny distance away from your piece. If you notice that the distance changes between your finger and the piece substantially as you go around, or if it touches your finger and then comes away from your finger substantially, when it touches you, stop and push it ever so slightly away from that spot. So you can see it's coming away, and then it came back and touched here. So I'll just push it very slightly away there. But since this one is Wabi-Sabi and I do intend to have it be pretty loose, I'm gonna be satisfied with where it currently is. I'm gonna take a rib tool. You could do a metal one, a plastic one, whatever you've got. And I'm gonna smooth out the texture that's on the bottom now, because I don't want to incorporate the texture of my banding wheel. You can flex it and create kind of an interesting bottom edge if you want that to flare out a little bit. In this way, you could do that. You don't have to. Lots of different options if you're using a metal rib or any kind of rib, you know, at this stage. Okay, so I've got that on there. So now I'm gonna attach a foot ring. So I'm gonna set this aside, and I'm going to take some clay and I'm going to roll a coil. So this is gonna be the same way that I was doing it before. I can already tell I've got a little bit more than I need. So this is probably all I need, maybe a little bit less. Okay, so this is a tricky bit in the sense that I'm smoothing this out. This is gonna add height to your piece. And since you're making a set of tea bowls, since you're making two, you are gonna wanna remember how big that you made this so that you're able to make your second one a similar size. A foot ring does not need to be very tall to give a little visual lift and oomph to your piece. So I'm gonna remember that I made this about the same size as my pointer finger. And then I can bring that back, bring my piece back, and I'm gonna just do a little size check. So this is definitely more than I need. And I don't bring my foot all the way out to the outside edge. I'm gonna bring it so that it's almost like a centimeter or more inside. So that I think is still a little bit bigger than I want it to be in terms of where it falls for me. I'm gonna cut out a whole nother centimeter of that. So this looks pretty good to me. Okay, so that's coming in a little bit more, but you know what, I like it to be a little dramatic. There we go. I like that. So that's gonna give me enough of just like a, when it's attached, like that's the shadow that it's gonna be casting. If I put it closer to the edge, it wouldn't cast a shadow at all. Okay, so let me try to get it centered again. Close enough. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and slip and score both parts. A trick for how to know where to slip and score for where you place this is to slip this up and then just put it where you want it to go and gently tap on it, and then it'll have made a little mark on the piece out of moisture, and you can just slip and score there. Now the reason that I centered this upside down is because I can just drop my arm on this and slip and score a perfect circle that'll be centered. Obviously you could make the choice to not have a foot ring centered, but if it's not centered, it actually has some functional implications as well. So if your foot ring is not centered, and you go to like, set your cup down, if you like set it down slightly off, it doesn't like, it's not gonna, like, it's more likely that it'll fall over basically. Okay, so I'm slipping and scoring my two parts. The foot ring now. Okay, you want it to look like raw hamburger. You want to slip and score and slip and score, ideally 3 times, and getting lots of nice slip in there, because this is what makes your attachment. Okay, and I'm slipping and scoring the 2 ends as well. Okay, so you can see I've slipped and scored to the point where this looks absolutely roughed up like raw hamburger, and this side as well. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and connect my 2 ends, and I'm gonna try to make this into like a circle. I don't want it to, be going on like in a weird shape. Now, if I did want this to go on as like a square or something, like you could square it out and put it on that way, but I want a circle. Okay, and I'm gonna place that on there, and it's gonna be the same as when I did any other coiling. I'm pressing it on to lock together all of the little platelets. Okay, so now I've done the pressing stage. Okay, so that's attached. Everything else that I do from here is gonna be about the way that it looks. So I might take a tool or a popsicle stick and just gently blend it on now. Okay, I'm doing my outside, and now I'm gonna go ahead and do my inside. I'm trying to be very precise about how I do it for the foot ring. I don't wanna mess anything up, okay? And then from here, you can get your fingers a little bit slippy and just run your fingers around the bottom of your piece. And that'll smooth things out quite a bit. You could also do this with a sponge. If it's not centered, you will have an asymmetrical piece. Okay, and you can just really get in there and smooth it out. You could get back in there with a rib tool if that's helpful later on. Okay, so I'm gonna wanna leave it upside down until it settles a little bit more. I could put it like this right now, but it's gonna pick up whatever texture of whatever I set under it, so I don't wanna put it on my banding wheel. I could set it on my table and just kind of give it a couple taps if there's any inconsistencies on the bottom, and that's gonna flatten and level it out. But I'm probably gonna go ahead and try to keep this pretty safe until this has gotten to the same degree of moisture as the rest of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my bag and set that aside until it's leather hard. When the moisture of the leather hard body and the moist foot equal out, then I'll pull it back out and mess with it some more.